race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality, anything they can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank.
Alright, well, there are now plans to bring amnesty for TPS and DACA holders. And if you don't know what they are, it stands for Temporary Protective Status and Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, which, from the term temporary and deferred, doesn't mean it's permanent. Okay, it is supposed to be not long-lasting. And just like they're floating about this whole anchor baby birthright citizenship thing where they have the right to stay in this country, you know, they were born in the US, even though they're incentivizing illegal and wrongful behavior. That's what they're not telling you. And therefore, I mean, whether you argue about the 14th Amendment, they're doing what they can to stay in the United States by using fear, emotions, and guilt. Okay? Now, is the solution just to deport them automatically? Sounds reasonable, but that's not the effective way to do it. You have to make sure that you put American citizens first when it comes to resources, jobs, and you also have to make sure that the parents who are responsible for having the children born here or brought when they were young, that they face penalties. Okay? So what is the point of behind all this? Let's just think of it as a common sense point of view. You know, do you think I should go to another country like China and India or perhaps Cuba and say, oh, I can bring my children for a better life, and 25 years later I think they should just get amnesty automatically? They don't know the country that they were from. How does that make sense? Why don't they allow that? It's just, again, double standards for countries like US and other Western European countries. Now, there are good claims about DACA, you know, they're contributing to the economy. Personally, I know folks personally that are DACA recipients, and they seem to want to make the real good life. But here is the thing, the real reason why the establishment, the powers that be, want DACA is because they have their agendas. It's all about politics. It's all about long-term goals. It's all about getting new voters. You see how the Harry Reid machine and many other people around the state of Nevada keep promoting Astrid Silva. Ooh, she's just some queen.
And it puts a real challenge on groups like the Culinary Union and everyone else invested in mobilizing and organizing in the Latino community.
If you break our laws by entering this country without permission and give birth to a child, we reward that child with U.S. citizenship.
She has to be celebrated and promoted and cheered, and I'm just someone who wants to make a difference. But what are they trying to do? They're trying to promote the Harry Reid agenda. You look at his crony records. They're trying to promote the agenda of the Culinary Union, just like that benefited him to get all these voters from these immigrant countries so they can continue to get him reelected and allow his corrupt agendas coming along.
You approve of increased Hispanic power. You have said we are 17% of the population, but we have only 3 senators. Who's we? We as Hispanics.
Latinos, yeah.
The Latinos. You want more power for Latinos. That comes at the expense of my people's power. Why do you want to take away my power?
Folks like me who were Caucasian of European descent, for the first time in 2017, will be in an absolute minority. I think that anyone who is in a situation where they're in need of health care, regardless of whether they're documented or undocumented, we have an obligation to see that they're cared for. That's why I think we need more clinics around the country.
It was from Astrid, telling me of her dreams that she wanted to be fulfilled, that she couldn't. She was not a citizen, even though this was her country. She's been looking over her shoulder for many years now, since the time she was old enough to understand, afraid of deportation.
They bust them to the polls, they play identity politics, and then they cater to the corporate elites, namely Wall Street, MGM Resorts, Jim Murren, which helped pump Sizzlack and Sandoval.
Laws. How easy is it to change a law in New York State? I don't know. But when you're the largest employer and the largest taxpayer in the state of Nevada, we can get laws changed pretty quickly. And we regularly do it.
Not to mention, Harry Reid was the one that supported the wars and voted for the one in Iraq, voted for the TARP bailout. And yet they don't want to hold them accountable because, again, they need a new class of voters to replace the ones who have been dissatisfied. That's the point of all this. And they don't want to hold them accountable. Remember back in the day, Harry Reid said in 1993 that he's against birthright citizenship, but that changed, obviously, because when he became more corrupt, he needed a new brand of voters and a new group of people to basically carry on his agendas and have future politicians that will carry on his goals. The anchor babies, essentially.
I engage in speech. And yes, it's part of the long Anglo-Saxon tradition of thinking that free speech and the contest of ideas, the truth will emerge. It goes back to John Stuart Mill.
Well, I think the people that are standing here will agree with me.
Attributes of a place like America
some of the things that
will
you've been saying and continue to say and spewing hate speech.
And they do that through identity politics, the race card, the non-governmental organizations, and they claim, ooh, they're trying to help Latinos and immigrants, but in reality what they're doing, they're helping the corporate elites because they get massive numbers of donors from these powerful Wall Street interests. You're just seeing right now, Sizzlack, who gets a lot of backing from Jim Murren, took a lot of opportunities and donors, and not to mention Murren had a lot of profiting opportunities. He was part of the COVID task force. He resigned February of 2020, a lot of red flags to make all this happen. And this means that you're going to get new voters, new laws, higher taxes, more people are going to go on welfare. They're going to send a lot of money abroad to foreign countries. Meanwhile, our country's facing some housing shortages. People are being left behind. Folks, this is taxation without representation. And all you have to do is look at the state of California with rising taxes and companies are just leaving in droves. That is just the sad reality of where we're living in. People are being left out, massive numbers of homelessness, but they don't care because if you speak out, if you say something, they call you a racist, they call you a bigot. It's all political correctness. Wake up. This is the truth behind DACA and the TPS. Can you believe it? This is why they probably want to name an airport after Harry Reid. And what do we have to hope for? Can people rise up, fight back? Could this go through the courts? Who knows? There's a possibility. But then again, we can hope that maybe people can rise up and say that if they become U.S. citizens, this will change the way America votes, and we will use this as a catalyst to break up the United States to make sure these new voters don't affect our daily lives in these new countries that are going to be created. I spoke to many people, legislators in Idaho, that how they should probably break up from the United States. And in addition, we've got the coming economic downturn that's going to worsen, not just from the shutdowns, but from the bursting of the real estate bubble when mortgage rates go up. And when that happens, a lot of construction jobs are going to be shed. It's going to add more turmoil, shortage of jobs. It's going to add more pressure to keep DACA rescinded. And in addition to that, we've also got, let's not forget, technology coming along the way, and that's going to be a huge blow disproportionately to immigrants, just like the COVID shutdown, which is going to really disallocate a lot of jobs. But either way, this is really heading to a train wreck, and it's important that you make sure that we don't bow down to crony politicians and pawns like Astrid Silva, who should be deported, or if she wants to be given a pass, we should consider breaking up from the United States, and we should consider spreading the word. Thank you so much.